Hey guys, welcome back to anatomy class. Today we're going to be talking about blood typing, and I have all of the documents open that you'll need in order to be successful for today's class. So before we get into everything, let's go ahead and look at our agenda. So you guys will start with your guided notes and video. Today's video will actually probably be pretty short. Then you'll do some blood typing practice problems, and then you'll conclude with a virtual lab on blood typing. Very sad that we don't get to do it in person, but it will at least teach you all of the steps. So if you take an anatomy class at university, you'll be ready for that process. So before we get too far into things, let's go ahead and look at the documents you'll need. All of these will be linked on Google Classroom, and you can just open up those documents. When you do, it will make a copy for you automatically, and then you can type directly into that. So our first one is our blood typing practice problems. Towards the end of the video, I'm actually going to do numbers 1 and 2 with you so you know what you're doing. Then you'll need this virtual lab document. When you go to this, all you have to do is copy this link right here, open up a new tab, paste it in, and it will take you to this site. And I'll walk you through how to start that process once we finish our video. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first transfusion that was actually attempted was in 1667. I got this from a book called Blood Work. It's a really interesting book, so if you have free time and you want to look at a PDF of it, let me know. I'll try to find a free copy for you. But in 1667, a physician named Jean Denis transfused calf blood from a cow into a madman in Paris. And people got really upset by this, not only because they wanted to be the first scientists to complete this process, but also because a lot of conservatives believed that he was messing with forces of nature. They thought he would anger God by this process. And days after his experiment, that person turned up dead. So Denis was framed for murder by these conservatives because they felt like he had ended this person's life unjustly. Now, almost 300 years later, we have Carl Landsteiner, who actually discovered human blood types. And later we found out that animals have blood types as well. So it wasn't that Denis murdered this man. He had just intentions. It was that he wasn't aware of blood typing. And when he transfused cow blood into a human, the antibodies in the human's blood attacked it, and the person seized up and died. So blood type is controlled by 3 different alleles. It's a multiple allele inheritance system. And the alleles are A, B, and O. Because there are 3 different types of alleles, there are actually 4 different blood types you can have. So a person can be type A, type O, type B, or type AB. A and B are codominant. So if they're both present, then they both display, like you see with this guy here. O is recessive, so you have to have 2 copies of it to have type O blood. And then types A and B are like regularly inherited dominant traits. So if you have one A and one O, you would still have type O blood. So here are the different genotypes. If you remember from biology, genotypes are the actual letters that you have, and then the phenotypes are the traits. So the blood type is our phenotype, the letters are the genotype. There are 2 ways that you can note genotype for blood. You can use IA for A and a lowercase I for type O, or you can just use an O for type O. I want you guys to focus in on this one here on the right. So we're going to use just the regular letters, A, O, and B, and the combinations that would give you those blood types. So if someone has type A blood, they can have 2 capital A's or an A and an O. If someone has type B, they can have 2 capital B's or a B and an O. To have type AB, you have to have an A and a B. And to have type O, you have to have 2 O's. People with blood type A can only receive blood from certain types. So they can receive it from people with the same blood type or type O. People with B can get it from B or O. People with type AB can actually receive blood from anyone. And people with type O can only receive blood from people with type O. And the reason for this is something called antigens that are present on the different blood types. Before we get into antigens, I do want us to practice how to do a Punnett Square. We did this in general bio. If you took AP, we did this as well. So everyone's familiar with the process. but I want us to get back into the swing of things. You guys will also get to see my excellent drawing skills put to the test here because I'm not Mr. Anderson, which you will soon find out if you remember watching Paul Anderson's videos in class. So to get us started, we're going to grab our little pen here. We've got someone who's got type A blood. If someone has type A or B, we have to know their genotype because remember there's two options. But for this practice problem, they've got two A's. Then we have someone with type O blood right here. So our first step for doing a Punnett square, remember, is to place each parent outside of the Punnett. So we'll put parent 1 with type A across the top, and we'll put parent 2 with type O along the side. So what I want you guys to do before I fill this in is go ahead and try to fill this in on your own. Just pause the video, and then I will show you a solution in just a second. All right, so here it is with the solution. And what we can see from this video is that every single child of these two parents, type A and type O, would be type A. Because remember, AO is still type A blood since A is a dominant trait. All right, so let's continue on, and we'll get some more practice with this in our independent practice. So if you're still confused, don't worry. I'll be doing those first two problems with you. So the reason that certain blood types can only be inherited by certain people, or the reason we can only get transfusions from specific blood types, are because of the antigens present on our blood. So people with type A blood have antigen A. People with type B have antigen B. People with type AB have both. And people with type O don't have those antigens present. These antigens actually help our blood cells recognize foreign invaders. So if a blood cell comes into contact with another blood cell, it makes sure that the same antigens are present. If they're not, then the blood will clot as an immune response. So blood that has antibodies on it that are not recognized by the body are attacked by our specific immune responses. So if you have type A blood and you receive blood from someone who is type B, then your blood cells will start attacking themselves and cause a clot. Because people with type AB blood have both of those receptors, they're considered a universal acceptor. So people with type AB blood can get blood from any other type. People with type O blood can only get blood from people with type O blood, but since there are no antigens on their blood, they can actually donate to anyone. So people who are type O are the ones that the Red Cross call every month to try to get blood donated because it's such useful blood. The only other thing we have to consider when we're talking about blood type are Rh factors. They're named after the monkey that they were discovered in, and people can be either Rh positive or Rh negative. But being Rh positive is a dominant trait. So if you know your own blood type, this is a chart that just shows you how common and how uncommon certain types are. O positive is the most common blood type in existence, which is good because it's the one that's the most useful. And AB negative is the least common. I'm B positive, so about 9% of the population have that. But if you know your blood type, you can check out this chart and pause the video and see what the distribution is for your specific blood type. Now, something interesting can happen where a mother is Rh positive and a child is Rh negative or vice versa. When a fetus is Rh positive but the mom is Rh negative, the mother's immune system will actually attack the fetus. If this is caught early enough, then there are drugs that can suppress that response, but sometimes it does result in the loss of that pregnancy. If you get to do your own blood typing in college, or if you want to order one of these for yourselves, there's something called an Eldon card, which gives you everything you need in order to test your own blood type. And this is the result table for that. If you were to purchase it, you would get all of that information. I have them at school, but unfortunately we aren't allowed back in, which is why we're doing the virtual alternative. But if you go off to university, there are a lot of pathogens that are present in blood. So hepatitis B and C, other types of hepatitis, HIV, malaria, and other infectious materials are found inside people's bloods. So when you are dealing with blood, it's super important that you practice safety precautions. You want to wear gloves, masks, other PPE to make sure that there's no transmission of blood between people, or that you don't get blood in one of your eyes or in your mouth. That actually brings us to the end of our notes. So like I said, pretty short video on the actual notes, but I do want to go through the practice problems with you and do questions 1 and 2 with you. Mainly because remembering the letters that you can have for these is a little difficult, so I just want to fill it in for you. So someone with type O blood is always going to have OO for their genotype. Type A can be AO or AA, right? So remember, types A and B have the most difference in what they can have. And if you have someone who's type A or B, then you need to know their full genotype in order to actually do the Punnett Square. Or you can make assumptions about it. So for type B, they can be BO or OO, sorry. And then for type AB, there's only one combination again. They have to have both an A and a B to have that blood type. So let's go ahead and do number 2 together. You can handwrite these or you can turn it in electronically. If you handwrite, just take a picture of it and upload that image on Classroom. But if a person has type AB blood and he marries a woman with type AB blood, we want to know what blood types their children will be and in what proportion. There are 2 ways you can do this if you're doing it. Well, there's only one way you can do it, so I'm going to do it the way that you can. You can insert a table. You always want a 2 by 2 for a basic Punnett square. And then you can reformat the size. Once you've done this once, you can just copy your table over and over again for each practice problem. It'll probably save you some time. So we know we've got a man with type AB blood. The only problem if you're doing it this way is that you can't actually type on the side here the letters that you want. So you can just put it off to the left. So we've got a man with AB and a woman with AB. We want to know what they make together. So if you just hit the space bar and get over towards the center, you can figure out how to type this in. And then for this one, we're looking at this on the left here and this up top. So we've got AB for that. For this one, A always comes first. So we've got the A at the top, B at the left. And then for this one, we've got B and B. So if we were going to write the proportions for this, we would say for type A blood, it's 25%, AB is 50%, and then B is 25%. You'll do the same thing for all of these practice problems. If you have questions on this, feel free to pop into office hours and I'll help you out. But it should be pretty simple, and I took out a lot of the problems, so you only have 8 of them to do. Once you finish that, you're going to pop over to your blood typing virtual lab, copy that link, paste it here, and I would just split screen between the 2. So have this up on one screen, have this up on the other side of your screen. But once you click onto this, you're going to go down to blood typing.
A member of the community needs a blood transfusion. Explore the lab to learn what is available for your investigation.
But it
You
will
must
talk
click
you
on
through.
each item in the checklist. Once you are ready to move on, click Procedure.
Great. So it'll talk you through exactly what it is that you need to do for the lab. You're just going to explore this with your mouse, and it uses Flash Player. So if you need help opening that, let me know. But as you go through, you're just going to fill in the lab right here. Again, if you have any questions, pop into office hours from 2:45 to 3:45 p.m. I am also available for you guys to speak. Anytime between 9 and 11, I'll be answering comments on Classroom, texts, emails, but try to reach me at one of those 2 times. If you can't, shoot an email and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I hope you guys have a great day.